All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second of 4 Purple Star Town Halls. Today's town hall will focus on middle school community outreach. Before we get started, I would like to remind everyone, except for our panelists, to mute their computers until we get to the question and answer part of the discussion. My name is Chad Wien. I'll be the moderator today. I'm the superintendent of Mad River Local Schools, located right outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, home of the 88th Air Base Wing and a logistics hub of the United States Air Force. We are very much impacted by our military community, and it's just wonderful to be right outside of the gate of Wright-Pat in Dayton, Ohio. Our panelists today, we have 4 amazing panelists that will share their stories with you. We have Jason Durrell, school counselor at Olentangy Liberty Middle School. He's part of the Ohio MIC-3 State Council, Ohio Purple Star Advisory Board member, and he's a first lieutenant in the Army Reserves. Next, we have Christine Young, a 7th grade social studies teacher at Anthony Wayne Local Schools, Purple Star liaison. We have Sherry Ems, the director of the Central and Southern Ohio USO, and Michelle Lewis, who is a foreign language teacher at Hyatt's Middle School, MIC-3 State Council member, Ohio Purple Star Advisory Board member, and editor-in-chief for the Ohio Purple Star Bulletin. So welcome, panelists, and welcome everybody to our session today. Background. I'm sorry?
I said thanks for joining us.
Yes. So a little bit of background for the Purple Star, which was founded in Ohio. It was launched at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in 2016 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Our first 8 schools were designated in 2017, and then the Purple Star movement has now resulted in over 300 schools being designated in the state of Ohio. And the continues to grow thanks to our amazing team, Team Ohio. We are proud to serve our military-connected community, and we are excited to share our story. So, question is for Jason, Michelle, and Christine. Such a challenging time in our students' lives, especially for students who are military impacted. What type of community outreach is available in your school or in your school district? So Jason, if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. And to comment on, or to compliment what Chad said too, thank you for everyone for tuning in and joining us today. It's great to have people from across the state and across the country joining us today and this week. The resources in programs and things within our school and district, I always like to remind parents and people we talk to that are military families to first off, don't forget about the programs and services that are available to every student, every family, not just military families. So that's something that I really didn't think about until a couple of families moved into the district, and they were military families going through some challenging times, but in helping them through what they were trying to get accomplished, the programs and services they were looking for were embedded right in the school. So never overlook the typical programs and services that the school offers, like Y Club or 504 IEPs, things like that don't require a military family. Outside of that, without getting specific to our district, just for any school, I would say it's the powers within the people that you know in the school building and in the district. So making the connections with other teachers, educators, community agencies and resources. Those are going to be the people that may already offer something military related that can help you, or they'll go the extra mile to assist someone because you have families moving in and out of your school district. For Olentangy School District, they'll just put this in here and then close out so the other ladies can comment as well. But for Olentangy, we're north of Columbus, and we are a non-base school district. So meaning we don't really have a Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near us. So sometimes people thinking about military students and families isn't on their forefront. So I'm very fortunate to have great people like Michelle Lewis and many other people in our district that are constantly getting the word out and keeping military families on the forefront of people's minds. So I hope that helps in a little bit. And I also want to leave some time for Michelle and Christine to comment on this as well.
A great perspective, Jason, from a counselor's point of view. Michelle and Christine, as teachers, I would be curious to hear just about your experience with the students in the middle schools that you guys work in, especially for those students that what we consider are hidden military children. At Wright Pat, we live and exist in a military community. I know in particular that looks a little bit different, and oftentimes our military connected students a hidden military child. So the challenges that our students face and the support that you guys have available in your district would be amazing to listen to as we continue this question. So Michelle, would you like to talk to that point?
Sure. Just like what you were saying about being the hidden military child, I think that the I have a group called Hyatt's Military Kids, and we meet, we met or used to meet once a month. And it was an opportunity for these kids to meet other kids that were just like them, because they didn't know that there were other ones out there, because they are so hidden. And that has probably been one of the biggest helps, I think, just because every kid wants to know there's someone else like there that understands their perspective. Currently, I have 20 kids. 12 of them were identified by the military student identifier. So half of those are active duty and the other half are Guard or Reserve. And then the other children are children of veterans, or they have siblings who are serving. So they are all have a like interest in the military, and they really show a great deal of support for one another. Something else that's helped us is our community outreach that we usually do, our Living History Day. We try to do a big presentation, and we usually have once upon a time, we had over 100 guests that would come in, veterans, active duty, and did a big presentation with veterans to our students. And through those connections, we have a veteran that has adopted our group. He is a Vietnam era veteran, and he attends all of our military kids meetings, and he even helped us to secure funding to take the kids to the National Veterans Memorial Museum and out to lunch. So just being involved just through the simple as having a Veterans Day activity, I was able to make that connection. Something else that's helped me, and Jason let me know about this, the RISFAC meeting. Through the RISFAC, which is the Regional Inter-Service Family Assistance Committee, they have a lot of different resources available, and you find out about things that can possibly help your military families. So those are things that have been valuable for me.
Thank you, Michelle. Christine, you're from the opposite side of the state. You're up north around the Toledo area. Tell us about the challenges that you guys have within your district, and then the community available within your district at the middle school level.
So Anthony Junior High, where I teach, is a 7-8 building. We do have a larger district in terms of farmland. So we're kind of a multiple coming together as one. So we do have a base near us. We have the 180th Fighter Wing of the Air National Guard. And most of our military kids do have a connection through the 180th. We also do have the Army Reserves as well over in Monclova. We have a few that come from there, and actually we have one of our faculty members is actually a member of the Army Reserves. And then we also do have a few military students that also come from the Army National Guard up in Michigan as well. So we kind of have a blend. This year I actually have a student who has a parent in the Navy. So his father actually travels to, he actually travels to Chicago and then comes home every other weekend. So you kind of get a variety. So I guess in terms of outreach, that's where we are just starting. So my building, there's 6 buildings in my district, and I was the 5th one, right, to earn it. Our middle school hopefully are applying for it this year. But what I found was that building a connection with the base, I felt was most important. That was something that our other buildings had not done yet. They had taken the information, the military question on our registration process. But I kind of went a little bit step further. I started surveying just like the teachers and asking, hey, have you, just through your student questionnaires, let's say at the beginning of the year, have you gotten any information on, again, those hidden military kids? And then I started this year, I reached out again to the family readiness program director at the 180th and more or less said like, hey, do you have some suggestions of how we can support our students here? And that's created a really nice bond between her and I on just programs. So for example, tonight they have their trunk or treat and she invited our group to participate, have that, again, that representation of our building. She's going to be setting up a pen pal program with us as well. So it was more or less just me asking, kind of reaching out to people that are around here. And so kind of like both Michelle and Jason have said is you just, even if you're kind of unsure of where to go, and I definitely was, I will say that, is just ask. I started with, I found out that I knew one of our coworkers, her husband works at the 180th. So that's been a great resource. That's how I found about the program director there. But then I also have discovered some of our substitutes, even their spouses are members there as well. So it's kind of just, yeah, I started with surveying our faculty first, about themselves, but then also about students and what they've learned. And then I formed, with my military kids this year, I formed a group called, we're the Anthony Wayne Generals, out of General Anthony Wayne, Man Anthony Wayne. So I call them Purple Star Generals. And it's all of our military kids, and we've taken on the responsibility of our Veteran Day program, community outreach. So we're starting those little programs, and it kind of gives them, like Michelle said, a chance to, oh, I didn't know you were a military kid, coming out. And then now people are starting to hear about our military kids group, our Purple Star Generals. And I have more students who are like, oh, my sibling, was just deployed, and they weren't one of my kids that I was told, so I guess things like that would be my best to suggest, is just ask.
I appreciate that, Christine. And I feel like from all panelists, we heard a couple things that really stood out. It's important to reach out. It's important to make those connections. It's important to take advantage of opportunities aligned with special activities such as Veterans Day and that, where you can really bring people in. And then the pride that I heard all three of you really explain as far as being a Purple Star school and using that as a platform to engage students and community. So I think those are great ways that you guys are connecting with your middle school students, because again, it's such a critical time in the lives of our students. From a different perspective, we have Sherry Ems from the USO. Sherry, I would be curious, what does community outreach look like, especially for middle school age students and families from a USO perspective?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I know a lot of people, when they think about the USO, they think about our lounges and things like that, but we do a lot more than USO lounges in airports and at places like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And we also support more than just the men and women in uniform, but we support the spouses and the children as well. It was a very sad day back in March when we found out that we were going to have to shut down all of our lounges temporarily because of the COVID restrictions. But what we decided is that, our men and women are still serving, and the kids probably needs USO support more than ever now, especially because they weren't in school. So, necessity is the motherhood of invention, right? So we created some new virtual programs that we launched actually in April. Our first one was a program called Nature is Neat, and it was in conjunction with Earth Day. And we just create bags, and it was filled with items like scavenger hunt items, seeds for planting flowers, and a whole bunch of other activities that the family could do together, given the fact that they couldn't be with their friends. We also did another program called Backyard Campout, and it was a way to celebrate the end of the school year or when the school year was supposed to end. And it was, again, another bag that we distributed to families to celebrate and do a backyard camp out, whether it was in your own backyard or in your living room. We did a 4th of July program as well, and we're also going to do a Christmas program to help celebrate. So that's one of the things that we've done to kind of turn the corner and try to make the outreach to our local military and the children and the family. You know, it's very sad that we had to cancel the Ohio Military Kids Camp, which is a great program that is hosted every year on Kelly's Island. And like Michelle had mentioned earlier, you know, there are kids that go to schools that they think they're the only children in school that is, you know, a military child, and they have that maybe sense of aloneness. And so by going to Kelly's Island to participate and being around other military kids, it's you know, it's a great thing for the kids so that they can understand that they're not alone. But again, with that being canceled this year, that's why it was so important for us to do things like the virtual programs, and we're going to continue to do that. One of the things that we did start at Wright-Patterson USO, we started it in person in February in partnership with Boonshoft. We did an Operation Science program. So it's all focused around STEM activities. We hosted our first virtual program this past weekend with Boonshoft and actually gave out STEM project where the kids were able to make catapults. So we continue to do these virtual programs. We're going to do it on into the future, even when we can get out and be around people again. So those are just a few of the things that we're doing.
I know our community appreciates that, Sherry. You're within the same that I'm in. And, you know, the USO, for all of you guys that are out there listening today and discussion, they do such a great job bringing families together. And there's nothing critical at a middle school age to have that family connection and support through organizations like the USO. So, Sherry, we appreciate everything that you guys do, especially at the airport. We're okay being open right now, but the work that you guys are doing to bring families to support our students through the programming that you have, such as the backyard Campout and the 4th of July program, it's just amazing. So we appreciate all your support.
Thank you, Chad.
Jason, as a school counselor in one of the largest districts in the state of Ohio, there's lots and lots of other middle school counselors out there, especially in the Columbus area. So, Jason, how are you connecting with other middle school counselors to help give them the tools to provide support for our military impacted families and students?
For one of the, I appreciate good question. One of the mantras I guess I live by, maybe it's internally, is that people will follow if you lead. So if you're willing to lead and do the work, and especially if it's going well, a lot of people will follow you. And there's a quote that I got from the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, really good book. Probably applies a lot to our military families, but passion plus direction equals success. So a lot of the people in this room right now have passion, the direction, and we're having success, and we'll keep doing that. But with those things in mind, I think just in terms of across the district and working with my fellow counselors throughout the state, finding interested and supportive people, staff, parents, community agencies. Christine was saying too, just reaching out and asking and finding those people who are interested in your school building, in your district, across the state, as we've all seen these great people here among us today. There's a lot of connections there, a lot of people with the same thoughts and opinions. So if you're willing to be that person to step up in your building or in your district, to be the person that other people want to go to for military youth questions, resources, especially if you don't have all the answers, there's a huge safety net of all of us connected here that have the same passion, we have the same direction, we're going to be successful together. So I'd say that's probably the first and foremost thing that anyone should do, is just start finding support people around you. Here in our district, Michelle Lewis, who you heard from earlier, we have 3 other teachers that have just volunteered to help. Doesn't matter how much or how little they can offer, but they just offered to help. And now there's essentially 5 of us helping coordinate a military families committee that really is for all 22,000 students, 1,600 teachers, 25 school buildings, and that is a huge help having 5 people push that along, and then we get help from other people who can help a little bit more here and there. So I think that's where you have to start, and I here today with this town hall. And I'd also say don't be afraid to be that person that is always talking about military youth and families. Being a non-base school district, sometimes I'm sure my school building itself groans when they hear me talking about military, because I talk about it all the time. I have stuff in my office, there's stuff in the hallways, we have Veterans Day stuff. So, and I don't mind the groaning, and I would say don't worry about the groaning, because when something comes to military kids, something that's needed, they're going to know who to go to. So if you're that person that is always keeping military families and military youth in the forefront, and staff, giving some staff some education, those newsletters from Ohio National Guard, anything that you can to help keep people educated, I think that's really the best way to go. But don't stop leading. Don't be afraid to be that person who's out in front. You have all these people here today, and those that are participating in the town halls all week, standing behind you to support you and help answer questions when you don't have those. So as Chad said, this is from a school counselor's perspective, and that's kind of what I see in my position here in my building.
So the thing that I really like about what you said, Jason, and I think it resonates probably with everybody that's participating in this call today, don't be afraid to be the lone dancer for our military kids, because other people will start dancing if you're the lone dancer. Support those families, be the dancer, get them to join in, feel the passion that you have, and really go out and support our families, especially, again, in a district like yours, which looks where you have an impact, but maybe that impact is a little more hidden than it is at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where it's very visible within our region.
Yes, appreciate that.
So I would be curious, Christine, where you're located at, anything that you're doing currently as far as outreach to other school districts, just to get the word of Purple Star to best serve our military students and families?
Well, in terms of other school districts, I have to admit I haven't done too much around the area. I have touched base with some of other Purple Star contacts in some of the other districts around us, just kind of to share ideas. I did try to spread out about, obviously, to whoever I knew in any other district about the town hall, obviously right now as well, to kind of just say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing either all the time, but this is a great resource. I will say, in the spring, when I was invited to that MIC3 meeting, that was a huge component for me to kind of feel more confident of reaching out, right, to others. So, and I also got ideas as well. So some ideas that I've gotten from Jason and Ashley as well is, I've utilized. So I guess in terms of that, coming to these meetings, especially our roundtable even that we had in the fall, has really helped me to build my confidence. Because I really started this as, again, many of our buildings in our district had already earned the Purple Star. It was something that I felt that we were lacking. We weren't approaching that culture of our students and really helping and supporting them like we do with, let's say, IEPs, for example, or 504s. I felt it should have just as much value. Those kids have unique needs. So I was like, well, I personally don't have any connections to the military, and I've never experienced that. And I was like, well, that kind of scared me. I will be honest with you. But I was like, this was a very strong need. And so going to the MIC3 meeting really helped. And then going to the roundtables really helped me to reach out to others and say, hey, I would like to steal your ideas. And then I feel like I have to pay that forward, is sharing as much as I have, not within my district, but to other Purple Star contacts in the area as well. So it's just like a teacher. You steal and you share, right? And that's what we do. And it's been a huge boost, I guess, as I'm learning along the way. So for those of you listening who are maybe like me and are not really sure where to start, is just steal ideas from people, ask what they're doing and say, hey, oh, how can we adopt that? You know, like the idea for my Purple Star Generals, I got that from Ashley T as well as Michelle and how they had those groups. And I was like, I need to do that. That's a very important piece and it's gone really well. And that's who's planning, my group's planning, and my students, my military kids, they're planning Veterans Day. They're planning our care package drive. We already have stuff for a mustache march because we're an Air National Guard, you know, that's big here. So we're already planning, you know, theme and spirit days for that. So it all started with, again, those meetings, reaching out to others. And then I just try to pay it forward the best I can.
Thank you. Michelle, Christine, Jason, I would be curious, you guys have really engaged with your military community, whether it's with groups or individual sessions with parents and families. What's your favorite story? Who touched you the most as far as your work in this respect and just the impact it's had on your life, understanding work with our military family? So Michelle, I'll start with you and then Christine, then talk to Jason about this.
Well, probably as far as the kids at school, the biggest impact has been when I got an email this past spring, and we had continued our meetings via Schoology, so we could still have our meetings. And I got an email from a parent, and she just told me how excited her 6th grader was because they're part of what is the 121st? I think it's the 121st at Rickenbacker. And they just, before this, the older daughter, she just didn't have those connections. And because her daughter Leah was so excited about being in Hyatt's Military Kids, our field trip to the museum, having Mr. Doherty, our own veteran who comes in every month and shares different things with us. She was so excited that her 6th grade, you know, her soon to be 6th grade sister was just excited to be at Hyatt's Military Kids. I've also we have the option of our kids doing committed distance learning. And because we're doing our virtual meetings, they can still be included. And I was reaching out to 2 of our kids that are in distance learning. And one of them just wrote back, yes, I love Hyatt's Military Kids. I can't wait to be back. So it's just knowing that you're making an impact on the kids. And just one of the kids, I mean, last year he would see me in the hallway and he would give me a hug. This year he just put his hand on my shoulder because, just so. But, just knowing that you're making a difference in their life.
Yeah, Christine?
Well, so this year, one of the ideas, the 180th had a really large deployment a couple weeks ago for one of their longest, so 120 days. And so my members, my military kids, came up with this idea that one of them, when his dad was deployed, his mom always made an M&M jar, and each M&M was a countdown, a day. And so I was like, we need to do this. I was like, we need to do this for, all of our deployed families. So we have 5 of our kids in Anthony Wayne Junior High that had deployed parents. Well, another kid's like, well, I think we should all do it together, like kind of a unified, force, all counting down. So I was like, yes, I love this. So I went and bought a bunch of, canning jars and M&Ms, and I counted, 120 for each, and I went and delivered them to the families. And it was, I delivered them on Monday, the day right after that. I guess it was Monday morning is when they deployed. So like at, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was I'm trying not to get emotional. It was very, very meaningful. I gave hugs, and those families really needed it. And that was just a very special gesture. And I said, it was our kids' idea. They came up with it. And so one of the parents wanted to pay it forward even more. And he's the commander of the troops who are deployed. And he goes, well, I have more. They're not Anthony Wayne, but they're in the Toledo area. Do you think we can make this work? He goes, and I was thinking an M&M for each child instead of them having to share. And I was like, yes, we can totally do this. I can count 500 M&Ms if I need to. And we got 20 more jars made and distributed. And it was, yes, that was by far the most special thing ever.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Jason.
That's fantastic. That's hard to beat.
I was going to say, can you one up that one?
Yeah, I am not going to try and race, especially given my age. I'm not going to try and compete against anyone at my age. Screen is probably very friendly, but it goes back to the connection part. Connecting people, connecting families, connecting agencies, connecting people who don't have any affiliation with the military, but they want to help. That's a huge part of that story. So that's awesome, Christine. The one that always comes to my mind is the student that first started me on this journey that led me to meet Pete and Chip, Chad, everyone in this on these screens. And even more was the one young lady here. She was a sixth grader at the time, so this was years ago now. But she just was struggling in school, and as a school counselor, usually by the time it gets to me, it's probably pretty bad. So she's struggling in grades, behavior at home, attendance. So there's a lot of things that were going on, and as I talked to her and we worked through some things, it just came to be that stressed about her mom being in the military and her feeling like the only person in the school building whose mom was constantly leaving and being deployed and going to different places. So that caused me to think, just given my military affiliation and love of the military, there's got to be some resources there, but also I wonder if there's other kids here in our building or even the district. And I'm very thankful for that challenge that she gave me 5 years ago, because it led me to have a bunch of resources now to make mistakes and then fix them by finding resources and people that this could be a better fit for families and kids. So definitely working with that one student so long ago just propelled me in a different direction, and it complements my job and my life, and it's made it even more rewarding for me. So I don't keep in touch with that student now. I even offered, a couple years ago to have her be really a kind of an icon here at our building and our meetings, and she just was comfortable where she was at and didn't feel she wanted to be, recognized in that way. So, but that's kind of where I guess one of the best stories that I have.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys sharing stories that revolve around deployment. For us, we have a lot of deployments and a lot of people that PCS in and out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base all the time. It's very difficult for families, especially families of middle school students and high school students. We're fortunate at Wright-Pat, we do have MFLACs, which are military family life counselors. I know some people on this call may have those within their districts. If you don't reach out to your base, they are available to help support your students, especially when families do PCS in and out of bases, or if you're at a reserve base or a guard base, they can help with the deployment piece too. So just something to keep in the back of your head that are participating in our calls today. My favorite story actually happened this year, where we had a family that had students from kindergarten all the way up through high school and middle schoolers, and we shut down the last 9 weeks of the school year due to COVID. We had our 5-day meal bags that we handed out on Fridays, and every week until they PCS'd out and went to Texas, they stopped, picked up food, we cried together, we high-fived even though we shouldn't, we hugged even though we shouldn't, and it just goes to show how much of an impact a school district and staff can have on our military community, because they really do attach themselves to the school. We're a comfort, we're a resource for those families. So again, the three of you, I really appreciate you sharing those personal stories, because those are very meaningful. Michelle, you are the editor-in-chief of the Ohio Purple Star Bulletin, which is awesome. Amazing publication that reaches all Purple Star school districts in the state of Ohio and beyond. So, Michelle, how has this publication impacted awareness and allowed for greater outreach for students that we serve?
Well, my hope is in that this would be an idea, piggybacking on what Christine and Jason have been saying about not being alone, that by what I would like to do, I try to do, is offer some professional development, because there's a lot of things that we just don't know. And as we all know from being in education, repetition's usually how we learn things best. So if I can put stories in there, it'll help people jog their memory. Oh yeah, the MIC3, yeah, this is what they do, etc. One of the things that I wanted to do was to put in some stories from Right Pat, from the school liaison officer, to share ideas and share problems and how they've been solved, so we can just, you know, learn from each other. Christine was saying it before, and I believe this strongly, a good teacher is a pirate. We take from others and make it our own. So by offering some professional development and hopefully some stories that will make people smile, we can see what's going on in other districts and we can pirate ideas. I got the idea to ask for money from and reach out to veterans organizations to help fund my field trip from Ashley. So I'm hoping by putting people's Purple Star stories in there that it's allowing people to have some new ideas. I just got an idea from Christine because I've got somebody who's deploying in January. So my whole idea is I want to offer the liaisons ideas that they can use right away, and just know that you don't have to be the most creative person on earth. I mean, I am not the most creative, but I'm very good at taking other people's ideas. And so that's what I'm hoping to do. And also just offer some professional development so that along the way, you know what the rights are for your MIC3 impacted students, because the MIC3 can be a little bit daunting. And, you know, we learn a little bit about it when we apply to be a Purple Star liaison. But if you're not, you know, getting doses of it on a regular basis, you might forget about some of it. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish. And I think, you know, it's sharing people's stories, sharing people's successes so that it's giving other people ideas and hopefully maybe building a community among us.
I can tell you it's meeting all of those goals and beyond that, Michelle. The Purple Star Bulletin's amazing, and it really works well with our Facebook and Twitter page as well, which are two additional communication tools that we have from Purple Star Ohio. So thank you for sharing that. The last question I have is for Sherry. Sherry, the USO offers a lot of support, and you spoke about the things that you guys have in place for our families. Is there anything in addition that you would like to share, or anything that maybe school districts aren't aware of that the USO could support?
That's a loaded question, actually. You know, the USO has over 200 locations worldwide. And a lot of people think about the USO and think about the overseas support, but we are doing support right here in our own backyard for our military. And some of the comments, Christine, I love the M&Ms idea. And I'm like Michelle, I will copy ideas. I think that could be something that could be a new program. But one of the things that I'd like to say to the schools is that if you are aware of needs of military children, give me a call. I know it sounds crazy, and I even say this to our military leadership, it doesn't matter how crazy the request is. If we can't do it, or if it's not in our mission, we usually know or people that will help us to fulfill the need. But some of our best programs have been created through conversations with people saying, hey, do you do this? Or, hey, we have a need for this. And that's how we create some of our best programs. So I guess that would be my suggestion is if there's a need or if you have an idea, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to talk about it.
I appreciate you sharing that, because it is so important for people just to understand to use your resources. Use your resources. They're everywhere. And sometimes you don't realize what's available. And that's why we're so happy to have you with us, Sherry, because oftentimes people don't think about the USO as a resource and a support. And you guys are a wonderful support for our military impacted families. Is there anything else that our panel members would like to share prior to getting to our question and answer session with our attendees today?
I wanted to share something. Christine mentioned about not being military connected and kind of feeling a little bit, you know, maybe what's the right word? Too many languages in my head. Intimidated me.
Yes.
Yeah, intimidated. Well, I have not served myself, but I'm now the mother of a veteran, but my son was serving. But one of the things that I did so that I could learn more about it, and I think it also helped me to build a little bit of credibility within the community, was to begin volunteering. I volunteer with the USO, and that really helped me to learn an awful lot. And I would just say, being involved in the community. So getting involved in a community organization like that, it introduces you to so much. I've been able to volunteer out at Wright Pat. I've been able to do all kinds of activities. I've gone to Ohio Military Kids Camp. So because of that, my volunteer opportunities, I have learned more to be able to help my families.
And I will say that Michelle is a great volunteer. I'm just going to say that right now. We love her.
Well, and don't be afraid. And I feel maybe if you are a teacher or even any staff member in a school, is sometimes you feel like you have to know everything or kids will look at you that way. And, I was very open with my military connected kids and my families that, I need to learn from you, and it's been fun for them to be the teachers. And that's really, I feel, even building our culture, our closeness even more. I've had some students that, it's been hard because my school district's in the hybrid, so we can't see each other. We're doing the virtual meetings. So sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, but I always have somebody new, and it's, again, spreading and spreading. And I think that's, great that, slowly, when I say, I don't really know, it's okay if you don't really know what your parent does. And some don't. They're like, well, I know he flies this, but they don't really know from there. And I'm like, well, that's one more thing that I've learned, and that builds confidence and it helps them to talk as well. Like I make an agenda, I should say, but for our meetings, but I always say, hey, let's share a little bit, tell a little bit more about yourself. And they just start talking. And that's really essential in supporting those kids, is making them feel confident and feel like they have others, as has been mentioned.
And I think the only thing I would add here, because I know that there may be some questions here, I want to leave some time for that, but just being in the military still today, and I served a long time ago. I had a break in service, but it's amazing how some things are still the same no matter what time period you've served in the military. But if anyone served in the military or been close to anyone served in the military, they're not always as detail-oriented and thorough as you'd expect. So just saying that from that side, or the units and bases, as much as they want to help military families that are moving or deploying, they may not have all the resources or people and preparation that's needed to help military families. So people that are PCSing may not get that nice bit of a welcome when they come to a new city, or get the information they need before they leave a previous city, and deployment's the same way. So as Chad had mentioned before, sometimes schools are the most empathetic and compassionate people that military families know, because that's what we do a lot of the times, all day, every day. And that's not always the same in any branch of the military. So just putting that out there as a reminder that if you think a family might have gotten information, or if you're not sure if they've gotten information or need some extra information, don't hesitate to reach out to them just to make sure.
Okay, this is a great opportunity for our attendees to unmute themselves and ask any questions that you have for our panelists. Again, they're great resources, and hopefully they have a great, fantastic answer for your questions. So you're welcome to unmute yourself at this time and ask our panelists any questions that you have.
Chad, there is a question in the chat box. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did see that. There is a question to the panel. The question is, what is your biggest challenge dealing with military connected youth?
And if I can speak from the counseling standpoint, or just maybe a human being standpoint too, for me, it's usually figuring out what the need is for the family. As I said before, sometimes the answer to the question that the military family has lies right within the school. There could be a resource or program that the school already offers. It's nothing special for military. It's just part of helping out kids. So I think for me, it's just teasing that out and figuring out what the need is for the family, and then moving forward with a solution to that.
I will say probably the biggest challenge I face is that self-identifying. I think we've all realized that is the biggest challenge. And I mean, even with our recent deployment that the 180th has, I couldn't give my students' names to the program director or the family readiness program director, and she couldn't do that vice versa, kind of like HIPAA laws I compared it to. So that was kind of frustrating. So it was whether the family, how many times, I can't tell you how many times I reached out, saying, please let me know if there's changes in your household, deployments, or even if it was just to another state for a few weeks or things like that. That was hardest. And so luckily that's where I kept saying that same thing to my faculty and saying, if you hear anything or they share. And so I had a few parents that then, kind of jumped on. And then when I met the commander, he really kind of helped kind of alleviate and break some of those barriers down. And then when I gave a jar originally of M&Ms to every member of our Purple Stars, whether they were involved or not, and that's actually how I found out that, yes, their parent had just deployed that morning. And that's where some of those amazing conversations and connections happened that day. And so it was extra special then. So I would say is the hardest part about supporting them is just getting parents and families to share and recognize that you don't have to do it alone. Our program director said, she goes, I want you to not just survive, I want you to thrive this year. And I want you to reach out and I want you to support each other. And I feel you just kind of have to keep at it. Kind of have to be that little kind of nagging, and eventually it will work its way out. And then once it starts, it'll snowball.
Christine, there's a rumor that you started a Spirit Week in Antioch that went statewide.
Yeah.
This is a question in the chat box. Somebody's spreading rumors about you. How did you come up with it, and how did it go?
That was funny. So Chip Merkel had sent those newsletters, and I was like, we had just gone virtual right before the month of the military child. When we went, I should say, full remote with COVID and whatnot. And so I was like, well, this is what I was planning. I'm still going to try to do it virtually via Twitter and, our district website. And I said, well, Chip, this is what I'm going to do. I just was sharing, thinking that's what I should be doing. And he sent it to Pete, and there it went. And I thought it was great that it was nice to see so many districts coming together and seeing the variety and how we're all unified. So it was just a simple idea, something that we always do, Spirit Weeks. I'm sure you've all done it. And I was just like, hey, we can still do it via social media.
That's great. Yeah. And then there's another question in the chat box. And it goes back to a lot of things that you guys have shared. Maybe go into a little bit more depth about this. How can local communities, so the community as a whole, support our Purple Star schools? And this is for any of the panelists.
Well, I'll start on that one. I think that what I mentioned before about how my school is involved in the veteran community because of our, we have this 20-year tradition of our Living History Day. I think that getting involved with your community, whether it's for Veterans Day or whatever, that it comes back to you because, like I said, we have our own committed veteran who attends and does everything he can for our kids and sends them notes, and he just asked them to help out with something. So I think that just the whole idea of building those relationships, that's how our communities can support the schools. There's so many organizations, the American Legion, I've been able to get 2 grants from them. So there's many, the USO, Sherry will support, Sherry and company will support us in any way they can. Just reaching out to different organizations for help. Within Olentangy, we've had the support of, for our Military Families Committee, Starbucks will donate coffee and pastries for our meetings, and just reaching out and asking, which is what, both Christine and Jason said.
To piggyback off that, if I may, So something that my Purple Star Generals came up with is for our families who are here and have a deployed member, we wanted to do something for them for the holidays, for Christmas. So I'm going to local businesses and asking for gift cards for the families so that they can, that's, an awesome meal that they can have. In our community, we are smaller, kind of like a small suburb, I should say. And they're really, our local businesses are always very supportive of things like that. But all you have to do is just ask. I also kind of buddied up in terms of funding, if that's also what you're looking for. I buddied up with our student council, who has a very good budget. And so things like that you can ask as well. And they have often already a good relationship with some local establishments to help you out as well.
We have a question in the chat box. Has anyone experienced any issues with students or parents having access to special health care, particularly mental health care? If so, has there been any specific support from TRICARE? And you may or may not insurance piece, but just the support maybe that you have had a conversation with your parents about.
I know for our school district, we not TRICARE per se. I think if it goes to that level, the parents are already contacting TRICARE and finding out what they need. But the healthcare in general, I know our district does a really, really good job of having access to local agencies for clinical counselor support and on up, the hospitals and the psychologists, psychiatrists. So I feel like our school district as a whole has a wealth of resources to suggest people to go to, because as schools we cannot make people go anywhere, or else we have to pay for it. So I think we do a good job of having those resources for people and trying to make sure they get what they need. And then if it has to be something specific in terms of the VA or TRICARE, that's something I think that probably a couple of us could help manage, but that we may end up referring them to the TFACs or MFLACs, as Chad had said, to get more assistance with that.
Any comments from our other panelists? And that's kind of a tough question unless you deal with the insurance side of that. We have a question from Illinois, and they're in the process of establishing the requirements for schools to qualify for Purple Star recognition in this Illinois. This person is familiar with Ohio requirements. Is there anything you would recommend for them to be able to energize schools to become recognized as Purple Star schools? So how would you suggest generating that energy to start this movement?
The principals get recognized.
Yeah.
Probably has some other important detail, but sorry, Michelle, you were going to say something?
No. I was going to say just the recognition for the school. But one other thing I was going to say is that I think it's Chad's school, the video of your kids. Wasn't that the video of your kids that said something like "We're Purple Star" or something?
Yeah, we did the OHIO and.
Yeah. I mean, I don't exactly. I don't know why they wouldn't be excited about it. I mean, I think you would. You just need to strategically find a pocket of people like the group that's here and get them to spread the word. Partner with organizations like the USO, American Legion, etc. Partner with people and get people excited.
I mean, I definitely think the PR piece is very big, and really pushing that. I know, so of our 6 buildings, our middle school is the only one that's not a Purple Star. And so when we got ours, it was kind of like suggested by our superintendent. He's like, hey, by the way, you're the only one without it, and kind of a push, and that aspect. But I will say once our first building, it was one of our primaries. That's how, once I saw them at our board meeting and they, had this big announcement, that's where I was like, wow, that's something that we need to do. And I started really, again, looking into that culture. So it's definitely publicity, spreading it and getting people like, wow, it's just like, I guess in Ohio, we have the, if you're an A school or, those recognitions. I see it, our superintendent really kind of sees it as the same. It's something that you want to make sure you're proud of. But then on the local level in your district, that's the more personal, I guess, connection, the passion.
Something else I would add is have some nice bling, have a pretty, banner so that, when people walk in, they say, wow, I want one of those, or a Caban coin, have a state. Yes. Commissioner Lapiba, share it. But we actually even have our state command coin. So those are things that people get excited about. When you walk in a school and you see the Purple Star, have funding for your Purple Star banners. I would suggest that because we've run into that issue. But having that banner when somebody walks in,
I'd say to piggyback off those, for Illinois, even just starting with your, once it gets approved and something official, talking with we have a very supportive superintendent here. And so once we knew we had his support, it kind of went down from there in a good way. So I was kind of half joking about principals getting recognition. They want to get these things on the wall too, or get recognized for certain things, because sometimes they don't always get that recognition. So this is something that if your school building gets it, of course you want to bring your principal into the assembly or whatever you do to present it, the superintendent. But I'd say if you can talk with your superintendent or people at your district level to see and get them the information they need so that they can see how beneficial this is, how many other states are doing it. Use us as resources if there's, we need to virtually meet someone in your school board or school community to help with that. But convince kind of the people that are higher up, and then let the principals, get some of that recognition from there. And then work with the teachers in your building to support the kids. That's the bottom line is getting help for them and support for them, but being proud of what you're doing. And the banner or the award itself just kind of lets everyone else know that we're doing the right thing here for kids.
I would say for the kickoff part of this, and this is for Cynthia Doyle from Illinois, and it looks like Martha from Nevada. Both of you guys are in the process of working through establishing Purple Star. We kicked ours off at the Air Force Base in Ohio. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is the largest single site employer in the state. It's a huge base. And when we kicked it off at the base, we had the state superintendent there. We had an elementary choir that came from one of my schools, which is located in base housing. And I spoke, and there are a couple other people that spoke. But now in the age where we have the ability to YouTube live and broadcast things across the state and share with the Department of Education where they can broadcast to the school districts, it's a great way to kick that off. And that went really well. And we started out with 8 in 2017. We're well over 300 schools now, some entire districts in the state of Ohio, which is pretty amazing. And, a lot of it started with that lone movement. And then from that lone movement, just as Jason and Christine and Michelle had talked about, in the buildings, you see the Purple Star banner. We have the coin that's part of our tradition now, that's shared when you become a Purple Star school. And there's all these other things that are now attached to it. This movement has become really special in the state of Ohio. But the kickoff, I think, is important. And if you can get some critical people involved, and if you have a base where you can kick that off, I think that really tells a story of how you can support your military families. And we were able to do that in Ohio, and it worked out really, really well for us. Trying to see if I don't see any other additional questions in the chat box. Anything else that anybody would like to share with us before we close out today? Okay, well, panel members, thank you so much for sharing your stories and being part of our discussion today for the second of the 4 Purple Star Town Halls. For those attending today, appreciate your attendance and allowing us to share our story with you. If you're an Ohio school district and you're not Purple Star, Be the lone dancer. Become a Purple Star school in your district and make a movement in your district and make this something special. If you're a state working on Purple Star designation and it's new to your state, be the lone dancer and get this thing started and support our military families. So with that said, we appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you so much. And we hope you enjoy Town Hall 3 tomorrow and Town Hall number 4 on Thursday this week. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.